to the bargaining system in large part, and I guess the question is, what's business finding difficult about this good faith bargaining system?
You're right. The primary complaint that we get about the Fair Work Act is the bargaining system, and there are a number of aspects that make it far more difficult than it was under the previous legislation. Firstly, it's incredibly, ridiculously overly regulated. It is very, very difficult for an employer to navigate their way through the provisions in order to get an enterprise agreement up and happening. It's inflexible, so there are less types of instruments that an employer can negotiate these days. In relation to the unions, it is a system which guarantees unions a place at the negotiating table.
But that seems to be an absolutely crucial point. Am I right in thinking it did all change in about June of last year? We had that incredible sort of decision as far as Rio was concerned with the Pilbara, and the unions managed to effectively very much get back into the Pilbara there. And also I think we had the full bench of FWA upholding the right to strike before bargaining without the support of members even.
That's right. This isn't a big change in workplaces and industries with high levels of unionism. Unions always have a place at the table, and rightly so during those bargainings. But it is a change for workplaces that don't have high levels of union membership. One of the decisions that you're referring to enabled a company that has basically no union members to be held subject to industrial action, even though the company had chosen not to bargain for an enterprise agreement at that point. So it is a big change for businesses who don't have high levels of union membership amongst their workforce.
Some, of course, may argue that is a change for the better. But what about the extremes? I mean, thinking about a couple of years ago now, I think in 2010, that agreement at Melbourne's Wonthaggi desalination plant, that was an extraordinary agreement, and for some a real low point in industrial relations. That the company actually, the employer actually agreed to not only very high salaries, but also rights to consultations and restrictions on outside labour. There's a fear now that has created a new benchmark.
Oh, and I think that's a fear that's very genuinely held. That particular project agreement, sent shivers down the spine of most in the construction industry because of those incredibly high levels of pay and very, very strong rights that were granted to union delegates or stewards on that site.
And the ability to contract out, obviously that's an issue with Qantas at the moment. Yeah. Do you think that's going to be very central in terms of the sort of submissions that are being made to the panel?
Yeah, I think the key issue is not so much the process of bargaining, but it's what can be included in enterprise agreements now. And that's that issue, the contractors clause, the job security clauses. Those clauses are at the heart of the Qantas dispute, and those clauses are the ones that I see every day are asking to be, by unions, seeking to insert them into enterprise agreements across all industries.
And what about the number of disputes? We were just hearing in that piece Marcus Clayton saying that disputes the lowest levels in 20 years. Do you agree with that?
I agree that if you take the figures from 20 years ago and compare them to now, yes, they will be lower, but that's for a whole lot of other reasons. If you take the figures from a couple of years ago, pre the Fair Work Act, and compare them to now, they'll be higher.
So finally, if we need to be really nimble at a time of global uncertainty, this couldn't have come at a worse time. 6 to 12 months out, do you see more disputes happening?
I do, and we're about to enter into a bargaining year for a number of crucial industries like the construction industry. And I just see that we'll really have some protracted disputes, and I think that it's an issue that will hog our headlines for some time yet.
We'd love to talk to you again about this. Thank you very much, Alistair Booth, for coming in.
Thanks very much.
For all the commentary from the Reserve Bank watchers, you'd have thought another interest rate cut was nailed on for tomorrow's meeting. Not so, judging by the latest positive signs on the